The views expressed on this channel are only a few of many possible ways to achieve your desired outcome. The suggestions present on this channel are not one size fits all. So, let's begin. Hello, welcome to our Creatives Guide course. I'm super excited about it. Um, So let's just hop right into it. This is coming after some of the shadow work courses, some of the reality shifting, some of the money manifestation, and some of the energy protection courses. So we're jumping into the creatives guide. This is a guide for the modern creative. So just a few rules here. Be on your Zoom at 10. Of course, do your homework. We will not have homework in this course, I don't think. Uh, but remember to stay up to date on your studies. Stay hydrated. Yes, you can eat in this class. I do have a water bottle with me that I will be sipping out of occasionally. Um, Eat, stay hydrated, ask questions and participate. Leave comments, questions, comments, concerns. Just remember to have a little decorum, please. uh, so, anyways, let's jump into it. So we're going to be getting into a couple of units. I don't think this course will be too long, not like shadow work and energy protection, but we do have these units here. So we're going to start from zero, from burnout, writer's block, lack of motivation, starting from that level of where maybe you are not even a creative at all. Maybe you never really allowed yourself the opportunity or time to really jump into any of the arts, and you are now exploring that and you're not quite sure where to start. Either way, we're starting from zero, and I think burnout is like the dreaded B word, but I think every creative hits burnout eventually. Of course, writer's block is normal, but burnout is this big, bad, scary thing. I think it comes. I have the window. Oof! I have the window open. You might hear a little bit going on outside, but yes, burnout is a state I think we all get to eventually, and while it is good to avoid it, I think it's a little bit inevitable. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into the voice of the subconscious, releasing your inner voice. So, once you get inspired to create or know what you want to create, it's about making it something unique rather than something generic. We'll get into it. Then we have creation as shadow work. How creation heals. Now we do have a shadow work course, and we kind of get into a little of the nitty gritty. We're kind of easing our way into it though. We get into a little bit of the nitty gritty, but we're going to talk about how creating heals, as opposed to asking those questions that might make you dig deep and cry a lot. Because crying is cathartic. Um, Crying is not the only way to release that built-in trauma. Creation is also that tool. So that's why we're going to do voice of the subconscious first. We're going to hold on. You might hear the kitty meowing in the background, or she meows too much. She meows too much. I may have to put her away. Anyways, that's why we're doing voice of the subconscious first. You want to know what that inner voice you have going on is. Um, kind of get all the wires in your brain untangled, and then once you kind of have an idea of who you are and what you want to create, then we're going to have creation as shadow work. Now, there are lots of creators, and there are lots of times I have created where I did not have all of these so-called wires uncrossed. I just kind of went for it. So it can definitely happen without you knowing what is going on in your brain. But if you are starting from zero, this is just one way you can kind of pursue your art creation. Remember, always confirmation for somebody. Confirmation for somebody if you believe in synchronicities. The phone just rang. Um, then we have creating the higher self. So we're coming full circle. Starting from zero, getting in touch with the self, right? With these two units here, then we're gonna, do some shadow work, form a more well-rounded view of ourselves as creators or creator beings, and then we're essentially going to in a way come full circle. We now know ourselves, but then you're going to hit that zero again, and it might not be burnout, but it might be a any type of block, because like I said, the eventual block is inevitable. It comes and goes. It's part of the process. So it's kind of like you're going to be doing this over and over again. um but it's not as agonizing as it sounds, trust me, because you are evolving in the process. So you're not stuck in a permanent loop. You are evolving. So even though this may be repeating, you won't always tell. You won't always be able to tell. Um, and it might not always feel the same. So burnout the first time might feel a certain way for you. And then the next time you experience burnout, um, after you've kind of evolved and gotten to know yourself, it may be very different, especially if you recognize it. Um, so this is just the introduction. This is not even really lesson one. This is just the introduction. So you have an introduction to creation. These are going to be like the lessons within the units. Introduction to creation, burnout, writer's block, no energy, consciously meeting the subconscious, creation as shadow work, creation for self-discovery, and creation for healing, right? So let's get into this introduction. Um, hmm. So we're going to talk about burnout first, navigating burnout in those stages. So stage one is usually a problem with the identity. You're fearful of appearing inconsistent. You don't want to look unprofessional. You don't want to look lazy. You don't want to look sloppy. So you kind of feel something is amiss mentally or physically or both, spiritually too. But you just it's kind of like that denial stage. This is very much a denial stage. And so while one part of you, perhaps your deeper subconscious, knows that you need to be doing something else, taking a break, slowing down, or just diverting your energy into something else, you are in that denial stage. And this is actually where the problem arises from. Most pain, uh, not all, but most pain comes from not being able to let go, um, or being unable to let go. So stage one, you're not letting go of that identity where you're like, you know what, I might need a break. You're not breaking out of that workaholic mode. You can't let go. So stage two is the mad dash to create, going against your one's own needs. So stage two is like when you know you are now fully aware. If you didn't know in stage one that there's some kind of emotional, physical, mental, spiritual problem, you now know by stage two. In my stage two, that's where you're kind of like, rather than ignoring, you're actively pushing down, right? So ignoring is when you just kind of turn a blind eye and distract yourself. Pushing down is when you're like, I know, but I don't care, right? We got to get this done. You're shoving, you're doing a little bit of force against yourself. And grab your hand, like if you can, grab one of your hands and pull it. But then, that same hand that you're pulling, use that arm to pull the opposite direction, right? So essentially, don't do it too hard. Don't hit anything around you. So like I have my right hand grabbing my left wrist, right? And I'm taking my whole left arm and I'm tugging it one direction, and I'm using my right hand to pull my left wrist another direction. It's kind of like you're pulling the self and you're not getting anywhere. You might actually be well, don't hurt yourself, but you might be causing a lot of pain and confusion because your arms, like, you're fighting you. You're fighting you. And if that seems uncomfortable on the outside, imagine what it would be like on the mental and spiritual level. But you're not just doing it for a couple seconds like we just did. You're doing it for hours and days and weeks and months, from the minute you wake up to the minute you lay down, and you don't stop. So that is, if you want to really contextualize burnout and really picture it, it's that fighting against the self. It goes against the identity or the truth. It goes against the truth of what you know. So stage three, you shift into total self-neglect. You become more tool-like than human. This is where you kind of get those shutdown. Uh, because you have a lot of emotions during burnout. You have stress, anger, anxiety, but then you start getting that numbness or that shutdown. Or you are distracting yourself and chasing highs, right? You're looking for whatever you can. So you may be a workaholic or whatever it is. But one example might be a workaholic who knows that they probably need to pull back and take a break. But instead of taking that break, they shift into total self neglect. So they're like, you know what? I'll neglect my health needs, but I'll treat myself every Friday night. So they treat themselves to whatever they want to eat, and they fill themselves with whatever food that is. But then, as soon as that weekend is over, they become that tool again. Because if it took you weeks and months and years to reach burnout, it's not going to take one weekend of eating whatever you want and sleeping in to heal that. So it is still neglect, even though you're treating yourself. Stage four, your ego causes a conflict. So, we talk about it in some of the other courses, the difference between the higher self and the ego, because both are ambitious and both can seem positive. However, your ego, um, can cause a conflict because it's like, let's pursue glory, let's pursue lots of money, let's pursue making all of the people who made fun of us feel bad by getting successful and rich now. Ego wants speed, 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 now, 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 revenge, revenge, revenge. uh we got to do it more, 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 more. Whereas your higher self, or if you don't believe in that, your subconscious, your true self, the truth of you is like, well, we can take a break because this is not sustainable. And you know that it's not sustainable. Captain, you're trying to captain the ship. Captain, this pace we're going is not sustainable. We're no good will come of this. Whereas the ego kind of has their hands clenched around the wheel, unwilling to let go, not willing to do that release. I need to be in control. I need to have this control. And again, going back to identity, I need to feel abundant. So I need to feel busy. All of these things. I need to control not just my identity at all times. When the identity is fluid, I mean, it can be fairly consistent within a being, but it is fluid. Um, but it's like I don't just need to control my identity. I need to control how I am perceived. I'm very obsessed with that, and you can only do that to a certain extent. Uh, After that certain extent, it's pretty much futile. We all know that. The stage 5 of burnout, you double down and identify with the higher self. I probably meant to say ego. Because I was making this during burnout. I gave myself a break, but I was making this during burnout. Uh, so you double down and identify with the ego, further pushing yourself away. Um, So you know that chasing all of these temporary things is futile and you know it's not sustainable, but you just essentially double down. I don't really need to really go much further. Now, I will say that this may be the stage that people around you may start noticing, especially if they're not close to you. They may start noticing uh, something wrong with you, something off. Um, or they may actually be able to call it out and say it is burnout stage 5 is usually when people can recognize. So stage 6 is as the situation gets worse, your mental and physical health worsen because you're not just overworking, you are neglecting yourself, and that neglect does add up. So sleep deprivation, you throw off your sleep cycle. um for some people, especially me, when I'm extremely sleep deprived, deprived. I'm a little bit sleep deprived right now. Deprived. Some people may have hallucinations or may feel sensations when they're sleep deprived, and can't form a coherent train of thought. So you're pushing yourself to do something, but you're not in the place to even be doing it. So we like to say quality over quantity, but when you're in burnout stage, let's be real, it's quantity over quality, isn't it? Which is not always the best thing. Um, so this doesn't always have to mean hospitalization, though it can mean hospitalization. It can lead to psychosis. It can lead to mental breakdown. It can lead to strains in your relationship, fighting, arguing. You're irritable. Small things you usually ignore make you want to fight. Uh, Dehydration. You're not eating healthy. You're not getting your nutrients. So basically stage 7, you totally lose yourself. You feel empty. This is a zombie like mode where you continue to move without purpose. So stage 7 is where that disconnect, it's like a total fracture from yourself. You're completely fractured from yourself. You cannot connect with yourself. You are numb. um I said you continue to move without purpose. I didn't necessarily say you continue to work without purpose. So when you move without purpose. Now, this can be the stage where you start staying in bed more, or the stage where you stop eating, or a stage where you overeat. You're just kind of moving to move. You're not necessarily focused. Finally, stage 8 is depression settles in. Both the body and mind shut down. You just said total shutdown. This is where you probably go, I don't know, for some people, nonverbal. You lock yourself away. You close the windows. You don't want to see any light. You just totally shut down. So burnout can happen in any field and is a phase many people experience at least once in their life. So you don't just have to be an artist or a creative. Life itself can cause burnout. Um, and burnout can have serious mental and physical impacts. Some of these impacts can cause incredibly hard to reverse damage or even lifelong damage. That's why it's very important to try to catch it when you can. Now I said burnout happens. Usually, uh, when you get familiar with catching it, uh, you might not be able to, you might not let it pass stage 5, right? Like you might acknowledge you're in burnout. You might be able to acknowledge it sooner, but then you get to this double down stage before you're like, no, hold on, let me nip this in the bud, right? Um, or when you get really good at it, you can tell the difference between your ego's desires and your higher self desires. We talk about this in shadow work and energy protection, how to tell the difference between your ego and your higher self, because they're both ambitious and they both can be positive at times, but they're not always, uh, depending on the situation, it's not always in your best interest to follow the ego, though the ego can be used as a useful tool. Um, so remember during burnout, uh, you can people experience some forms of addictions, self-harm, alcohol, certain drugs. um Working itself can be an addiction. Working out as stress relief, when you work out too much, that can also be an addiction. Overeating to numb the pain is an addiction. Under eating, and just kind of leaving yourself to starve can also be an addiction. Smoking while working, um sleeping, you can get a sleeping addiction during that time. So um addiction can manifest in a variety of ways. So the best way, hold on, I'm gonna close the window because that the outside ambience is a little bit too much. All right. So uh the best way to navigate burnout is to simply listen to yourself. And sometimes our mind or our body speaks to us in a very, I guess you could say, childish way. Even though it's not childish, you might classify it as childish. When you really listen to your thoughts, um your subconscious, your brain, whatever, might just say, you know what, I don't feel like doing that. Silence, right? It doesn't offer you an alternative. It doesn't clarify. It doesn't go on to say, well, I don't feel like doing that because, we've just worked so much these past couple of days, and we're tired and we're sick and we have, it's not gonna, it's not. Sometimes the only thing your subconscious says to you is, no, come on, let's do this project. Just one more video. Let's make one more uh song. No, come on, all we have to do is sit down and type one more. No. But it's very quiet. It's very quiet. So sometimes the brain will only say to you, "Well, I don't feel like doing that," or "Well, I don't want to do that right now," or I just can't bring myself to do it. And it may feel very annoying, especially when you learn to listen to that voice. It may feel very annoying, and it may even feel counterproductive. It's because it doesn't clarify. It doesn't clarify anything. It doesn't offer any solutions. It's just no. And that can be very frustrated, especially when you are in that stage of being unable to let go, being able to holding on too tight to this identity of, I can't look inconsistent, I can't look unprofessional, I can't look lazy. I don't want to feel lazy. I'm not useful unless I'm churning out content and churning out work or churning out art. And aren't I a writer? Why can't I write? Aren't I a painter? Why can't I paint? It's the ego that does all that talking. It just talks and talks. Well, we should make it because everybody called us stupid, and we have to get revenge on the person in fifth grade that said this about it. And don't you understand? Like the ego talks and talks and talks and talks. But the higher self is kind of confident in itself. It knows its truth, right? Or if you don't want to call the higher self, you can just say your subconscious, your true subconscious, the truth of you. It doesn't have to explain itself because it knows. It's kind of firm in its opinion because it knows what it needs. So as you begin listening to your own subconscious, it's going to speak to you in these quiet ways. It's going to speak to you in these very quiet ways. And sometimes it is just no. Or sometimes it's silent, right? It's silence. So you sit down and you're like, okay, we're going to paint, we're going to write, we're going to create new content, we're going to make a video, we're going to write a script, we're going to, and it doesn't say anything. Your subconscious doesn't give you anything to work with. And it can be jarring because when you think about television, when you think about the internet, and you think about Pinterest and TikTok and YouTube, and then there's Instagram, there's all these apps where content is constantly being made and shared every day. Some of it, recycled stuff we've seen before, but some of it brand new. And you're telling me your brain can't tell you anything. It's not that your brain can't tell you anything, because a block isn't actually a block. Writer's block isn't actually a block. It's not actually a block. Now, it is a separation from your subconscious, but it can also be a message. The block itself can be the message. The burnout itself can be the message. I want to put my message on the canvas. I want to put my message on text. I want to put my message, as a creator, as an artist, this is what I want to do. I want to put my message in a song or whatever. So what's the message? And it's quiet. Because maybe it's a time you don't need to be trying to get something out. It may be a time you need to be getting something in. And if it's not self care, possibly some sort of self evaluation. If it's not self evaluation, maybe you need to learn, maybe it's a time for you to learn a new skill or learn a new hobby or get into media that may enrich what you're doing, because the silence is an answer. You don't always need to be putting out as an artist. You definitely need to be taking in. Um, so there is a lot of emphasis when to push through those feelings. We see a lot of advice like, oh, do it scared, or do it unmotivated, or do it unsure, or do it unconfident. All of those things are true. They're true, right? There are times where, as a creator, you need to jump in. We hear it all the time, or maybe you haven't, but they say for every project you are procrastinating on, there is a person with half the resources, half the skill, half the knowledge, half the intellect, and they're churning out twice as much as you. Because the only thing holding you back is that you are afraid to do it and they weren't afraid to start. So we hear that all the time. We hear we'll do it scared, and you hear the inspirational messages about all the people who were like, I was unsure I was going to pass the audition, but I did it anyways. I was nervous, I was unmotivated, and I jumped into. We hear that all the time. And I do think those messages are very important, just to remind you that you don't have to feel ready to be ready. You don't have to feel ready to be ready. And especially as a creator, you will probably never feel 100% ready. Just like as a creator, you can refine and refine and refine whatever it is you're working on, but you will probably never think whatever you're working on is perfect. Now, it may be good or it may be very good, but you'll never think it's perfect. Um, or maybe you will create your magnum opus. I applaud you if you frequently feel like that. I think that's wonderful. But just as nothing you create will ever hit the spot for you, because it can never feel perfect. No matter how much you do, you'll never feel 100% ready before you do something. Now you may do something on a whim, but I think that's a little bit different from feeling prepared. We see a lot of emphasis on when to start these things, but there are times it's key to do less, especially as a creator. Uh, Important questions such as, okay, well, I feel blocked. Okay, well, I created something and it's not, I don't know if I love it. Real questions such as, ask yourself real questions such as, what else could I be doing right now? Uh, Studying, resting, um, going back to basics. You see a lot of artists, they have artist block, and then they have to go back and they say, well, I put it off for a long time, but I studied the foundations of anatomy. And you're surprised because this is an artist who's been churning out art for years, 2, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 years, and they're just now going back to study the basis of it. Yeah, absolutely. um So, um, when you hit that no from your subconscious, when you hit that blank period, um, what else could I be doing right now? It's a very important question, especially in regards to not just creation, but a self check in, like I keep saying. Well, have I had water today? Am I dehydrated? Have I eaten today? Do I have nutrients? Did I get 8 hours of sleep? Um, what's going on? What am I neglecting right now? What am I forgetting? And what am I doing this for? Now, be careful of what am I doing this for? I feel like that's one that can make you spiral, but I do think it is a very, very good question. Um, as a creator, what am I doing this for? We talked about it in the reality shifting course. Uh, Different ways to share and spread information. Um, if you prefer visual information, what information are you sharing and why do you like the visual medium? If you are a podcaster, um, why do you think you prefer the audio medium? Now we're getting into shadow work. Um, and well, just because I just like it. Well, that's cool. Um, why didn't you make your content another way in the video format? Oh, because I didn't want to fiddle with a camera and I didn't want to set it up. And I really don't like all the logistics that go behind that. But that also tells you something about yourself. So rather than trying to churn out content when you have a block, getting to know yourself and your preferences is very important. And you see a lot of people talk about getting out of your comfort zone, getting out of your safe space and really thinking outside of the box. Um I kind of have beef with that phrase, kind of, but not really. Um Only because yes, most things you want to do will require you stepping out of your comfort zone. But if I may rephrase it, I'll say you need to step out of your familiar zone because there are oftentimes I felt very inspired to try something new and I wasn't comfortable with it because it was new, but I didn't feel bad and I didn't feel anxious. I felt inspired. So a lot of times when they tell artists or any creator to get out of your comfort zone, make your videos, get out of your comfort zone when you make your videos, get out of your comfort zone when you do this, it sounds like you're guaranteed some agony. It sounds like you're guaranteed some pain or struggle. And so as you are contemplating how to start next or how to move next, you're subconsciously looking out for that twinge of pain. We want a little bit of inspiration, but we need that twinge of pain because if I don't feel pain, I must still be in my comfort zone. So that's why I always like to say, not get out of my comfort zone, but get out of my familiarity zone. And if I feel inspired to try something new, it's usually a good feeling. So navigating burnout, you must remember you are not a tool. Uh, so I've remixed these questions. So what am I neglecting? What am I forgetting? What am I doing this for? So we kind of remix these questions, right? Because you're not a tool. So who am I neglecting right now? Who am I forgetting? Who am I doing this for? Um, Now, when you ask yourself this question, what am I doing this for, and who am I doing this for, are totally different questions, even though it has that just one word difference, right? Who am I doing this for? Well, I need to make the world a better place, and I want to be the change I see in the world, and I need to, I'm doing this for the world. I'm doing this for the world. I'm doing this for the world, right? I'm doing this for all the young people like me who wanted to see music like this or movies like this or whatever, right? If we could dive a little bit into shadow work before you jump into saving the world, Superman or Supergirl, why not circle back around to yourself? Because remember, as a creator, your strongest ally, your best tool is your younger self, your childhood self. They are the guide. Um, Now, unfortunately, if you are unable to fully connect with your childhood self, like many of us, then I invite you to jump into shadow work with us. We do it side by side. We do the homework together. So I invite you to jump into shadow work with us. But it is that who am I doing this for? Before trying to save the world, before doing it for the money and for the attention and for the accolades, you need to go back and remember that childhood self. And that's why I think burnout can be a very, very valuable time because it's a time of quiet. The only time burnout is a time of loudness and chaos is when you're fighting, is when you're rebelling against the truth, like we said. You have that ego going more, 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 identity, identity, identity. Then you have the subconscious going, no, 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 right? And so when you finally listen to that no, and you give yourself some space and you give yourself quiet, it's time you can really connect and really feel for your core self, your true self. Um, And maybe it might be a time, well, of course, burnout's a time you need to rest, but maybe it might be a time where you need to do shadow work. Put the paintbrushes down, put the video editing software down, put the music making program down, and besides rest, do some shadow work. Get back to the self because that writer's block, that creative block, is just a disconnect from the self, right? And so if you get back to the self, you're kind of replugging that back in. However, it's not as quick as plugging a computer back in because if you gave yourself burnout over hours, days, weeks, months, years, a weekend of shadow work is not going to do it. A week of shadow work is not going to do it. Um, so you have to keep that in mind. Um, well, it's like it says here on the page, don't be afraid to go back to square one. Who am I and why do I enjoy this? Why did I enjoy this? So you don't always have to go back to childhood. You can go back to when you started something. Well, why did I enjoy this in the first place? And I feel like this is one of the most important things this question here, one of the most important questions you can ask yourself as a creator. Not just, who was I as a child, but why did I enjoy this when I initially started this? What was it about this? Because you can get lost in the sauce. You can get very, very, very lost in the sauce. And when that happens, like I said earlier, you get all the wires tangled, and you forget why you're even doing this. I think it is stage 7, right? Um, so before stage 7, it's you rebelling against the self. You're doing that pull. Remember, you're tugging the arm, but you're tugging your own arm. You're not going anywhere. You're just tugging your own arm. But then, stage 6 through 1 through 6, that's that rebelling against the self, that push and pull, that pain. And then stage 7 through 8 is snap, right? Uh, that disconnect. So you are now separated. And asking, who am I? Why do I enjoy this? Why did I enjoy this? Is you beginning to start that reconnection process. Now you have to remember everything is organic. So if you had, sorry, I smacked. I'm trying not to smack when I talk so much, but when you have a cable or a cord and it's frayed, or you say your charger, where your charger gets bent and it no longer charges your phone, it has a disconnect. All you have to do is sometimes pop some tape on it and get those ends of those wires to touch. And after a little bit of tape, you're good. Sometimes all you have to do is buy a new cable, then after 2 days of waiting on Amazon, plug it back in and instantly it's good. Now, this is a very organic process, and because it is organic, it's gonna take some time to mend and heal. Um, it is. And depending on who you are, your mental fortitude, how burnt out you are, there really is no time frame. So looking around at other people is not really going to be a solution for you. And so that's why in that time, it's not about staying busy by doing shadow work, but it's about remembering what really matters. Uh, so here's a couple questions we have. So before, during, and after navigating burnout, it is important to do self checkouts throughout the day. I'm probably meant to say checkups, but this is what content looks like when you're doing it during burnout. uh, so a couple of questions we have is when was the last time you ate? When was the last time you had a healthy, nutritious meal? Now that is a big one because you can eat junk and then wonder why we cuss sometimes, but you can eat a bunch of junk and then wonder why you still feel like shit. Your body, especially your brain, needs a certain number of, especially a balance. It needs a certain balance of nutrients and chemicals and vitamins to function. Why are you feeling weak? Why are you feeling like shit? Because you haven't had water in a week. I know some of you will drink everything but water. That coffee is very dehydrating. It can be upsetting to the stomach. Um, Even though it's your, go juice, it helps you go. It's not nutritious per se. So, did you take your medication today? Do you need to eat with your medication? Are you scrolling too long on social media? When was the last time you took a break? Does your body hurt, your back, your eyes, your head? Now, we made a chart in shadow work. It was our first shadow work mini exercise. And in that exercise, we I'll show you the chart in a minute, but we made a chart that is a convenient self check-in. So how's your posture? Mine right now is terrible. Have you been listening to music too loud in your headphones? Oh my god, I have a headache. Well, you haven't had any water and your music has been way too loud. When was the last time you stretched? Because yes, that actually makes a world of difference. There were times I felt exhausted and like I was breaking down, and I stood up and I stretched for like 2 seconds. And I was like, "Oh, I feel awake." You got to remind your body you're still alive. When was the last time you did something you loved? What did you enjoy today? How much did you sleep last night? Do you need a nap? Like this is that self check-in. Um, so before we move on, we're gonna study the self check-in chart. So let me see. Well, I didn't really want that. We're gonna look at the self check-in chart. I'm gonna duplicate this page. And I'm gonna just take my chart. So this is the chart we made a couple days ago. We made this chart completely together. So if you want to know how to make this for yourself, I said it is printable. Oh shoot. I said it is printable. And because it is printable, you could just take a highlighter and circle this. Or if you want to do it digitally, I taught you how to make this for free. And you can just kind of fill it out every day for free. Like I'm filling it out myself for free. So last time I did this, it was 2:22 p.m. The 19th. Today it is 3:37. So I'll say 3:40. And it is the 21st. Now it helps to do this every day or even twice a day, every day, in the morning and the night. I kind of want to too much background going on for me. Too much background. We'll make this This orange and red. So if you want to know how to make this chart, you definitely want to watch the shadow work kind of mini guide we did. I'll link it. It'll be linked. Because I said you can customize this chart to kind of be specific to you. Sure. And we went over it, like if you wanted to print this, you can just make this chart black and white. You can just grayscale it. Um, then we had this chart. So 3 p.m. It's 8:21. And it is good to do self checkups. Usually I recommend, especially if you're a creative, but this is just anybody in general. Usually I recommend sorry, I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to focus. Oh shoot. Usually I recommend I forgot what I was gonna say. I don't know what I recommend. I don't know what I recommend. All right. Oh yeah, usually I recommend doing this multiple times a day. I'm not getting rid of that back there. All right. So we made this chart here. And again, the step by step is in another video. So you can find that. Let me see. I always give myself like a little dot. And this is good because I used to try to journal a lot and try to I still journal, but I used to try to journal a lot to try to really keep up with what I was feeling. And I would just write down every day what was going on with me. When really it's more convenient to just make this chart and then duplicate it just every day and then kind of you'll see. You will see. You will see. All right. So, um I feel like I'm a little bit in burnout. So me personally, and you can use this exact chart if you really want to. And you can use this exact chart if you really want to. You don't have to. I always say you can like customize it for yourself. But here we go. So I want to make it a little bit darker so it shows up on the orange. And you can play around with the colors. So today, am I feeling happy? I'm feeling peaceful-ish. I'm feeling peaceful-ish. Bored, angry, not sure. I kind of feel this. This table does it looks like a lot. It does not take long to make. I think we made this together in like 6 minutes. And because I was thinking, like if I knew what I wanted, it probably would take 4 minutes. Uh, and when you fill out your chart, fill out as many. Don't worry about things clashing and not making sense. Like, how do you feel unmotivated and overstimulated? Don't worry about it because it works out. Um, my mind's not racing. I feel kind of spacey. We talked about the importance of why I put having the song stuck in my head. Uh, because I take a song stuck in my head as something I'm fixated on at the moment, even if I don't want to be. And I think there's like a little bit, especially as a creator, whatever I'm drawn to, I think there's a little bit of meaning in the things I'm fixated on. Though I feel consciously blocked, no. I'm not speaking very quickly and concisely today because I am sleepy, but so I don't think it's a conscious block. Do I feel creatively blocked? Somewhat. Not really, because I'm making this somewhat though. And then I feel a weird kind of something else, and I don't know what it is. Uh, I want entertainment, but I don't know what type of entertainment I want. I really want my attention to be captured and held by something right now. I would love that, like a good movie or something. But I feel, we're going back to that boredom. It's like I feel disconnected rather than disconnected from myself. I feel disconnected from the world. Which as a creative, that creator, that might be something you want to explore. When do you feel disconnected from yourself versus when do you feel disconnected from the world? Um, I would like to be resting. I already did that today. Uh, but I do think I'm coming down with something. So I am acknowledging that the sleepy and that the daydreaming and that the rest is probably because I am coming down with something. Uh, I would like to be doing something with no. I feel I'm someone who loves to do stuff with my hands, but I don't think I want to be doing that today. But I like to be trying something new. Yeah, definitely. Uh, Sometimes I am in that mood to conversate and really get along. I'm not really. After I film this, I really don't want to talk anymore. Do I want any food? Kind of thirsty. So I guess I would go under soft. Thirsty. Um, I think about the future, think about the past, think about something that hurt me. Actually, none of these today, which is crazy. I'm just thinking about kind of fantasy. I'm not even anxious today. I'm good on that. I'm good on this one. I'm linking this back to needing to drink something. I feel like if I did meditate, I would go to sleep. But I never think it's a bad time to meditate. Now, there's a reason we're taking our time to do this because it's like, well, what about burnout and what about the creative process and what about being a creator? This, buddy, how do you think you get out of burnout quicker? One, you rest. Resting is priority. But two, it's reconnecting with the self. This is how to get out of burnout. It's that counterproductive type thing. So, like, I didn't realize it before I made this, this chart just now. I'm like, I don't feel disconnected from myself. I feel like I do want to create, but I feel disconnected from the world. I feel no inspiration, right? Do I have a headache? No. Do I have tooth milk? I have a little bit of a headache, but I think it's a dehydration headache. A little bit of a sore throat. Dehydrated? Definitely. Tummy does not feel great. Allergies every day. Chronic pain, head, face, neck, headache, shoulders, chest, heart. Not really. Not really dizzy today. Uh, no, acne's great. Hair conditioning's all right. Skin's all right. Nails are all right. Circulation is all right. Uh, all my pain is kind of in this area. All right. So we have this, and I'm not gonna link them just because I feel like that would take too long. But if we go back to this chart, right? Because burnout is about getting back in touch with the self so you can, get back in touch with that subconscious. So I circled all of these. It's the same chart, just different colors. I circled all of these last time. I was feeling a bunch of emotions. And so I took these same dots and I colored the ones that I thought were connected. Just like I could acknowledge that headache and the sore throat are both probably connected to dehydrated. Um, Just like fantasy might be connected to daydreaming, thinking about fantasy, mentally daydreaming, feeling sleepy, you know. I'm not feeling too energetic today. I'm not you don't say happy, sad, or angry. So if I were to link these, I would say peaceful, sleepy, daydreaming. I'm not even really feeling I feel understimulated. And you don't have to link all of these. It's not about forcing a link, but if you notice a link, then you can kind of get back in touch with yourself. And then you can take the proper protocol because sometimes you don't even have writer's block. Sometimes you're just dehydrated or you need to have lunch. Get that second wind. Take a nap and get that second wind. But if you forego the nap to do a bunch of other BS, you forego the meal to do a bunch of other BS, you're gonna make the burnout worse. It is what it is. It doesn't have to be perfect. It really doesn't. And I'm okay with it not being perfect. Um, and if I really want to be about it, I might even say that this one is connected. So I'm kind of in this state. I need to make this a special color. I'll make this kind of pink. Restless, entertainment. So as a creative, you might sometimes, and don't force a connection. Like if you don't think there's a connection, don't force it. But sometimes you can surprise yourself with what you feel. So there's a little bit of boredom. I wouldn't say boredom. It's like a numbness. Rather than boredom, it's like a numbness. I feel like a numbness. I should make this connect to this and then make this connect to this and then this come back down. Oh shoot. I hate when it automatically connects to the circle. What am I supposed to do about that? Right? So I would say rather than bored, it's kind of like a weird numbness. I feel very, very not real today. So that numbness is related to a restlessness. I don't want to feel not real. Um but I don't feel connected to something that I need to be connected to. I just kind of feel suspended. You know what I mean? I don't feel connected to my subconscious to create. Don't really feel connected to the world where anything is. I don't feel inspired, and nothing outside of me is inspiring me either. So it's that kind of like uh deep separation. Um and so yeah, probably would be seeking entertainment because if I can't access that inspiration within myself, can I see something that will ignite me? Um And of course, I don't want to see the same old, same old. I want to see something new. And so, see how the narrative changes um, just by kind of connecting these dots. And maybe, ironically, this is not the same shade of pink. Ironically, might be connected. So, I need some entertainment. I want to try something new. But there's a song stuck in my head. Well, what's that song about? And how is it relevant to me? Is it vastly different? Does the content of the song vastly different from the type of videos I make? Or Is it in tune with what I usually make? What is so special about the song stuck in my head? Or the movie stuck in my head, or the show that I'm thinking about. 'Cause I'm thinking about a couple shows too. Um, so just really, as you make this map, you get back in touch with the self. Um, you know, who am I neglecting? Who am I forgetting? Well, check this chart and you can see what you're neglecting. At least physically, you can see what you're neglecting. Um, so I think I don't want to spend too long on this chart because I really could, and I really don't want to. Really, I made this chart initially for shadow work, like getting back in tune with yourself. So as you begin shadow work, you're not like, oh, I'm lazy and unmotivated. And then, we checked out the chart. And if you have all the physical ailments checked off, you might not be lazy and unmotivated. You might be sick, you know? And so you're like, oh, I don't feel like writing. I'm so lazy. Uh, I'm not good at doing my shadow work. Maybe you could just be sick, right? You wouldn't go to someone in the hospital, go, you're not doing your shadow work, lazy. You would go, oh, they're hurt, right? The only thing is we can usually offer that kindness to others, but then when it comes to ourselves, we don't offer ourselves that. So that's why it's very good to do these check-ins. Um, and especially as a creator, because it's not just for burnout. And now I made this to help you kind of. Well, I made this orange one to kind of help you navigate burnout and what you're feeling and do that self inventory. But besides burnout, this is very good for. I'm losing my train of thought. This is very good for getting back in touch with the subconscious, getting back in touch with the self in general. Um, Now, if you really want to connect with that inner child and things you like doing when you were younger, uh, definitely join us in shadow work. Um, Join us in shadow work. We do a lot of that uh, connecting back with the younger self. We talked about childhood wounds, so things that might actually be impeding you, things you can't work past. We talk about trust wounds, guilt wounds, neglect wounds, and abandonment wounds. The page is a little bit cut off, but it is what it is. I mean, I could fix it, but it's formatted to this guy. The video is formatted to this guy. What do we also talk about? You may see a couple works in progress here. We also have the reality shifting, which spoiler alert is not actually reality shifting. It's about shifting into a person rather than reality shifting into your highest self, your best self, your strongest self. And we talk about how to kind of just become a better you, become the you want to be. But I said a lot of that has to do with, I'm trying to find the page. Here we go. A lot of it has to do with, yeah, will have to adjust this. Give me a second. There we go. Kind of off. It's kind of off, but you can look. Who are you, right? Who are you? So no matter what we're talking about, it all comes back to the self-analysis. Um, Utilizing your skills, your interests, your hobbies, your different methods and styles as a way of kind of getting the outcome you want. So this is about manifestation in general. If you want a certain dream career, a certain dream body, a certain dream job, um, we talk about how taking that inventory of the self kind of helps you get what you want. Uh, Whereas in shadow work, we talk about how doing that inventory of the self helps you uh, heal and move forward. But you move forward in shadow work by going back sometimes, and then you go back, and then you bring it back to the present again. And so, with the creative guide, we are talking about what you want to push out and what you want to do, but what you want to push out into the world and what you want to create and do. But then again, you have to go back to that inventory of this self. And sometimes it does mean taking accountability, which is painful, and facing, shameful things about ourselves. But um you will be made stronger for it because the goal is not to beat up yourself, it's just to understand where you're at, right? So for me, uh The worst thing, I'm terrible at backing into parking spots when I drive. I'm terrible at it. Now I'm good and decent at a lot of other things, but I'm terrible at backing into parking spots. And I'm not beating myself up over having this weakness. I can acknowledge it, and so if someone's like, "Hey, I have a very expensive car, you can drive it." Um but I do require you to back it into parking spots. I know what situations to not get myself into, right? So I'm using kind of understanding my weakness as a tool. Now I could hone to get better, but you understand your weaknesses just as a tool to help you navigate life. So, as you fill out your chart, admit when you're sad, admit when you're angry and you don't know why. Admit when you felt unmotivated or overstimulated because it just circles back around to being a tool. Uh Usually I do these for about an hour and a half. So we're at the 1 hour mark. So let me get a sip of water. I don't think this is gonna be too long today. All right, so we talked about this. Many artists or creatives have heard the advice to just show up, just show up to the page, show up to the canvas, show up to the studio. I'm a little bit stuffy. Um, And while that may certainly lead to some interesting creations, pausing to get in tune with the self may be the best way to work through a creative block. We just talked about it. While creation is reliant on some sort of skill, talent, or interest, emotions are a creator's best tools. So where emotion goes, creation flows. I probably meant to put an S at the end of that sentence. Understanding your emotional state can help you better channel your energy if you are feeling lost. Emotions are complicated and messy. They are rarely understood in a straightforward way, let alone channeled efficiently with so, it is what it says. Emotions are complicated, they're messy, they're all over the place. They're rarely understood in a straightforward way. Usually hindsight is 2020, right? Usually we get through an episode and realize, the entire situation. Uh, so they're rarely understood in the moment, let alone channeled efficiently in the moment. You don't understand it. Now I will say for a lot of artists, sometimes we do reach that flow state where we don't know what's going on, we don't understand, but we are in a flow state and we are just creating. Now that is a very unique position to be in, and it's a very good one. It's where you get a bunch of work done, a bunch of creations churned out, and as you look back retroactively, you are then piecing together your own story, your own narrative. Uh but that doesn't mean that it's where, as a creator, you're always going to be in that flow state. If you wait till you're in a flow state to create, that might just be the type of artist you are. But you can still create a lot of very nice content intentionally. Sit down with the intention of getting something done. Uh just remember, you push on tension too much and you get into burnout. So we're going to get into emotional equations. Now this is based on Chip Conley's chart. You can look it up on Google or Pinterest. I kind of remixed the chart a little bit, but this is based on his. So artists can create during all season. Each season or emotional period has its purpose, even if the artist is not always aware of the purpose. In a way, the hidden purpose can be found through the act of creation rather than understanding purpose then creating. We just talked about that. That's where the hidden purpose can be found through the act of creation. That just means you enter that flow state, you create a bunch of stuff. You didn't even know what was going on, what you were feeling, and then retroactively you piece together what you were going through and how it's relevance. Um, that's just what it means. So it can still be helpful to understand what feelings you were channeling, in the moment. Many artists create from a source of pain, agony, discomfort. They can all be great motivators, especially if they are prolonged. So you have a season of despair, a season of depression you can't get out of. Uh, a lot of artists have blue periods. Um, it is what it is. It might not always be obviously a blue period, but a lot of artists do have blue periods. Music artists, uh, that artists who release certain songs and then they release that album that's very sad. That would be like their blue period. Um, that painter well, we already know that painter who begins taking on a darker subject matter as opposed to brighter subject matter, um, a blue period. It doesn't matter if you're a writer or whatever. While a lot of artists might try to shy away from creating during this blue period, this period of pain, a creator is always going to have that urge to create, right? Even if you don't actually act on it, you get those flashes of ideas, right? Because I get those too, where you're like, oh my god, I can't, and then your brain has that what if, or maybe not even a what if, just a flash of something in a dream or while awake, and you might not even act on it, but you're just like, oh my god, because the creator does not stop creating. That is your blessing and that is your curse. The blessing is that you can create through all seasons, right? Depression, inspiration, joy. Uh, the blessing is that you can create through all seasons. The curse is that you will create through all seasons. And sometimes you may create work that you feel like is not representative of you, right? That is that holding on to that identity, especially that one dimensional identity. You know, the pain comes from holding on too tight to identity. And so if you are an artist who loves expressing yourself when you're sad, you may feel uncomfortable expressing yourself in a joyous mood. If you only want to show a very inspirational, joyous self, you may be uncomfortable showcasing those sad emotions, right? So we have a few equations here. These equations are not really set in stone. I just wanted to kind of paint the picture with them. So creation during this blue period, or the pain and fear period. I should put period. I mean, it is kind of scale, but it's also a period. Um, Creation during this period uh is, it means it's not just expressing sadness, but also processing sadness. Like you can process grief, sadness here. You can also release the pain through creation. So you can express, process, release a number of things. So we're going to start with despair. That's suffering, and then you have no faith things will get better. You have no faith that you will ever be better. You know, that deep depression, that utter despair. You have disappointment, regret times negative wisdom, or regret times a lack of wisdom. So disappointed is just like, you know what? I don't know what I expected. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. I got it's a little bit of regret, but it's regretful that I didn't know better. Like somebody says something disappointing, it's like I'm regretful that I didn't know better, you know, or something disappointing happens. Now, regret itself, I said, is an opportunity minus wisdom. Um, Now you can swap this wisdom for courage too, right? I'm sure there are times of we've all had times of regret where there was an opportunity and we simply lacked the courage to partake. But then we have, sometimes it could be a lack of wisdom, which is a more innocent approach to regret. Like, oh my God, if I had known, I would have done that, right? It's more innocent. Now we have jealousy, which is a lack of curiosity. That's why you have negative curiosity. So it's a lack of curiosity minus authenticity minus wisdom. So if you're in a state of jealousy, you don't have that positive curiosity about what you could be doing or what you have going on. You you're in a state of envy, like you're looking out too much, but you're not doing it with the right intentions. That negative curiosity. Then you have a lack of authenticity. So if you're jealous, why are you not feeding your own authenticity? Why are you not feeding into your own identity? You're lacking identity, you're lacking authenticity. And you're also just lacking wisdom. I feel like that one's simple. There's no reason to be jealous. There's no reason to put people on pedestals. Just a lack of wisdom. Uh, then we have anxiety, suffering, times disappointment. So this disappointment is already like regret and lack of wisdom. And I think anxiety does go to having a lack of wisdom. You know, you're scared and nervous because you're unsure. What if things could go wrong? What if? And so, remember what happened last time? That might happen this time. I'm not sure, but it could, right? That lack of wisdom. And you're just kind of giving yourself suffering. It might not be intentional, but that's what anxiety is, that self suffering with that lack of wisdom. Then anxiety is also tied in with regret. I don't want regret, which is why I'm scared. I don't want pain, which is why I'm scared. So we'll move on. Uh, to the pleasure and a purpose period. So when people think of creation, they tend to think of this combination of emotions. And while the flow state is here, flow can be achieved during sadness, can be achieved during anger, can be achieved during happiness. It just happens to be here. Flow is similar to autopilot, though autopilot may lack a feeling of purpose. Like a lot of artists can enter autopilot mode. Now I know that just because I've been a creator for so long, I can tell my autopilot from my flow mode. Um, Flow mode is I'm completely unaware of what's going on. Autopilot is I'm somewhat aware of how much I'm getting done, but I'm just very detached from it. Flow state is kind of like there's a little bit of a lack of awareness. Like, how did you draw that? How did you paint that? Oh, I couldn't tell you, right? So, when related to burnout, there is a loss of identity, purpose, and focus. Uh, when kept in balance, the emotions on this portion of the scale maximize efficient creativity. When out of balance, these emotions lead to burnout or feelings of lack of identity. So we got up to anxiety, right? So now we have calling, which is wisdom, flow, authenticity. I feel like it is what it is. I found my calling. I have some wisdom. I know myself to a degree. I know where I fit in and I know where I slot in. I may not know it all, but I know this much. Uh, Flow, I'm thriving. Um, and I said it's thriving without that anxiety. And then authenticity. So I'm being true to myself. Workaholicism. I said it's flow times two. Uh, Times pleasure times pain. And pleasure and pain can sometimes cancel out. Um, so workaholic, some people really experience a lot of pleasure being a workaholic. Some people have a love hate like pain relationship with being a workaholic. So it's flow times two, which means you are really it may actually be autopilot, but whatever it is, it's that state of you're becoming a tool, you're becoming a machine. So you have that kind of flow going on. Um, Curiosity. I said it's authenticity plus faith. Curiosity is just being honest, right? There's something that I want to know about. There's something I want to learn. Being honest with yourself, uh, and just really going for it. I said authenticity is calling minus regret. Um, right? So you know your calling and you go for it. You're not worried about the regret. You're jumping into the wisdom, the flow, the authenticity, and see how they both kind of to me it's like a closed loop. It's like a closed loop because calling also includes authenticity. So sorry, I'm getting tired. And so that's why we kind of have all of these kind of arranged in this way where they're interchangeable. Because to be honest, they kind of are. Um, Now with the blue period, you can see kind of like a progression of, well, clearly I'd rather have anxiety than despair. Uh, Here it's kind of they're not negative. These aren't negative or positive. They're just kind of emotional states. Uh, as long as they're in balance, they're just kind of states. Whereas with the blue period, you can kind of go, well, despair and suffering might be more negative than a regret, but it depends. Depends on your level of regret, I guess. It's gonna be different for everybody. So this is where a lot of burnout occurs because remember it's that identity and denying the self. And besides that, this is where a lot of people try to let creativity come from. A lot of artists and non-artists. Non-artists assume that creatives are just constantly in this mode and always like this mode. Um, and creatives, I guess, somehow assume and take on the identity that we should constantly be in this mode. I should constantly be inspired. I should constantly know about my calling and understand my calling and understand where I fit in. I should constantly, be able to access flow. I should always be curious and, want to take a tutorial. Why would I not want to get better? Sometimes as an artist, you do not want to see another damn tutorial, even though you want to take one or you need one. You don't always want to jump into another damn tutorial. You don't always we're gonna hone our skill for the rest of our lives. That's what creatives do. But you don't always want to take another lesson, right? We have that time where it's like, oh God, I know, but we don't jump on it, right? So now we have the very interesting, we have a very interesting place. I feel like a lot of people like to create from the excitement and pleasure period. So these emotions create some of the most pleasurable creative states. Like to create in these, while in these states, it feels like flow. And I feel like it goes without saying. You can see what's on the chart. So, as the saying goes, there's a thin line between love and hate. Just like there's a thin line between the excited state of disgust and arousal. This line is actually very thinly blurred, disgust and arousal, especially if you are familiar with horror. Horror has roots in well, I did not gear myself up to discuss this. You can look up lots of video essays on it. But horror has a lot of roots um that kind of blur the lines between sexual fascination and a fascination with violence, which you can kind of a lot of horror movies are perverted in a way, um and you can almost feel a little bit of that sexual perversion there, but at the same time a lot of sexual perversions may include disgusting or violent uh acts. So it's kind of like a two-way street where they're very connected. uh have you ever seen somebody obsessed with someone they hate, like an artist they hate, or an influencer they're obsessed? You know, that disgust and that hatred, but then that deep obsession. It's just like there's a very deep link, and I feel like it's very easy for people to understand these emotions. It's like a train wreck. I can't look away, right? Or you see a car wreck on the side of the road, and you don't always look away. You in fact crane your head as you're passing by to look and see. You know, someone says don't look, and what's the first thing everyone does in real life or in a movie? Say try to look. That obsession with disgust, that obsession with something that gives you that sense of arousal. And arousal doesn't just have to be sexually. It can be just a stirring, something that stirs you, gives you a feeling. So these emotions are incredibly stimulating. It can often work in place of inspiration. So, you know, when you're chasing inspiration, when you're chasing flow state, when you're chasing, well, what's my calling? You know, I can't really tune in or tap in. Sometimes people will tap into any of these. So we have anger. I said it's opportunity times disappointment. Um, it is what it is, right? Right? There was an opportunity for something, anything to happen, and then you are hit with this disappointment. Now you could get sad, but oops. You could get sad, but I just have it for anger. Like I said, none of these are set in stone. Then you have disgust, which is opportunity and regret. You know, that kind of rather than, oh, that didn't go the way I wanted, girl. You know, it's that kind of, ooh, that did not look the way I thought it would look. Oh, that did not taste right, right? You get prepared to eat something and like a piece of meat and it's rotten. Ugh. There was an opportunity and I regret biting that. You know, you go to eat a piece of fruit and there's like a worm in it. Ooh, there's an opportunity where I could have had something. Oh my God, what is this? You know, that or horror movie. There's an opportunity to show you something that can scare you or frighten you or disgust you. And oh, I can't believe I looked at that. I can't believe I saw that. It was worse than what I could have possibly imagined, that disgust. Then you have arousal, which is curiosity, interest. Now, opportunity is also here, but arousal is kind of like if you don't want to count, you know, it as sexual, there is that curiosity and interest. Oh, what's this? Right? Oh my goodness. Oh my God, what's that? You know, let's look some more. Oh, right. And so when you combine these two, because they're connected, it's that, oh my God, that is not what I thought would happen. And then you watch some more, right? And then you watch some more. And then you watch some more, right? It just doesn't stop. Now we have a lust, which get into it, tap into it. We have lust, which I don't feel like I need to explain. Then we have obsession. I said interest time 10 to kind of be funny, but obsession is obsession. Like I feel like it's its own thing. Uh so it's very easy to create from these states. Um when you can't tap into like divine inspiration, and no one said you have to be as a creator always tap into divine inspiration. Um but let's finish this up. We're not at an hour and a half yet. We're hitting it though. So these emotions are extremely powerful. So these are I don't want to call this pleasure. I'm gonna call it the you know what? Cathartic period. Right? So these emotions are extremely powerful in a positive way. If despair and agony are the deepest of the negative creative emotions, then love, transformation, and joy would be the powerful opposites. Every emotional state, however, has its importance and power. So it's not that these are more powerful than these, because depending on who you are and what you are going through, you might wield despair much better than you would wield love, right? Depending on who you are, you might wield lust 10 times better than you would wield happiness. Depending on who you are, you might wield happiness better. Depending on who you are, what you're going through. So none of them are particularly stronger than the next. So we have happiness, that flow, that authenticity. Yes, I'm here, I'm doing it. We have love, which love is what it is. It doesn't really need an equation. Um, wisdom, which is all the knowledge you've acquired, plus it's now contextualized. Then we have experience, which is every single one of these multiplied. Experience. You were sad, you were in flow state, you reached burnout, you were in lust, you were obsessed, you are disgusted, something made you angry, you are a workaholic, you had natural, all of it. That's what that experience is the full experience of yourself. And then finally, the transformation of yourself as an artist, which you will do again and again and again, and time and time and time and time again. You will keep evolving. It's that experience plus more wisdom. So, experience is all of these emotions, you going through all of these periods and all of these seasons. That's that transformation. But now you fully transform when you have that wisdom. You can contextualize it, right? Oh my God, looking back, I can see how all the pieces connect. And that's why I say burnout is something you should probably not aim for. But if you do feel burnout, or if you do hit writer's block or painter's block or creative's block, um, for a purpose, and you can usually contextualize it, right? So just a few more slides to wrap up before we hit that hour and a half. And you can further break these down. So remember, we had love, right? You could break down love into affection, lust, longing. You can break it down more than this, but there's affection, lust, longing. So bigger emotions can be broken down into specific smaller emotions. Uh, Bigger emotions can also be a combination of several smaller emotions. So for instance, if you are feeling affection and longing, maybe not lust, but if you are feeling affection and longing, you could say, well, I'll write a love song. You might not say I'll write a longing song, I'll write an affection song. You might say I'll write a love song, right? Now, if lust is thrown in, then it's like a more complete love song, right? I don't want to use the term complete, but you know what I mean. Um, so this is emotional alchemy. So combining different emotions. We're gonna get into that combination in a second, right? So more examples of broken down emotions. So sadness, suffering, shame, disappointment, neglect, sympathy. Um, right? I'm gonna make a song, maybe not so much about suffering, maybe about feeling shame and feeling neglected by somebody I love, right? I feel shame and I feel neglected. But then, I feel hurt, but I also feel the sympathy towards them and their own struggles. Um, and this just goes back to that self inventory, right? Where you were checking the boxes about how you feel, but then, and then you could even go through here and say, well, which am I feeling? I feel disconnected. Where do I feel like I'm at on this chart? And you might be in several places at once, which is fine, but it creates a bigger picture. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. Break down anger, irritability, exasperation, rage, disgust. Um, rather than saying I'm gonna write an angry novel. Uh, I'm envious of somebody, grr, and I'm disgusted by them and their lifestyle. I don't want to torment them, and I'm so full of rage. Like you now have, rather than just a vaguely angry. I'm angry and I need to get that out on the canvas. I'm angry and I need to make a song. Great. If you can break it down further, then you might get closer to creation. Ah, I see. It's not just an angry song, it's a song about envy. First and foremost, envy, right? Then you can stack them. Um, and or maybe we'll say overall rage. I'm blinded by the rage. And I know that I've got some envy. It's fueled by envy. And I'm envious of somebody I'm disgusted by. Oh my God. But I'm tormented by them. I can't look away. I'm tormented by them. So you see how we've created a narrative, right? We've created a narrative. And so now that alchemy I was talking about. So I'm feeling rage, right? Because I said you could go through and see where you lie. I'm feeling rage. Grr, like I don't know what's going on with me. I can delete this. I'm feeling rage, but I'm also feeling neglected. Oh my gosh, I'm so, I feel like life really let me down and I'm angry about that. But then I have a longing for things to get better. And I want to be loved, but I feel like I'm not good enough for love. So we will access lust. So this is a very, like, this could be a song. This might not be a chaotic song, but it could definitely be a song that really embodies that. Or if you want to write a novel, you have more space, right? You have more word space. Whereas a song, you have, you repeat the chorus and all that. But if you're writing a novel, you have a lot more space to really explore this whole shindig, this whole combination. Or if you're a painter, God, there's so much you could do as a painter, right? Just doing that self inventory and reconnecting with the self. So this is where I was going to make a chart based on these emotions so we could kind of play bingo, but I think I may do that as its own mini exercise. Every time I make charts in the video, I do them step by step so you could do it with me. The app is Canva, or the website is Canva, Canva. And when I taught you how to make the journals, the printable journals for shadow work, that's when I introduced you to Canva. So if you need an introduction to Canva, you can just follow along and make your own shadow work journal or your own money manifestation journal. Made those two. Um, so if you need your own journal to make digital or to make printable pages, you can follow those guides. But where I introduce you to Canva. But we'll probably make a table next time together uh about like energy or emotional alchemy, right? How we can kind of combine these. So I was feeling blocked off earlier, blocked off from myself. Um, but when as I look at this chart and I go, oh, I'm feeling a little bit of disappointment, I guess. Um, I am pursuing. I have curiosity towards my calling, but I don't feel like I'm quite in the calling. I'm not quite obsessed with anything. But I do have like a deep interest in a couple things, right? So as I'm breaking it down, going, yeah, I guess I'm piecing together a bigger picture, and we might do that together as an as an exercise, together. But we'll do that next time. So finally, just know your body's needs and conditions. They fluctuate day to day. It's important to know your baseline though. But if you've never gotten in touch with your baseline, it may take a while to know what your baseline is. It may take months. Um, I am chronically ill and I am recovering, so I don't have a good baseline. My baseline fluctuates, uh, depending on the weather, depending on if I've been eating, in tip top condition, or if I slipped up and had a cheat meal, like a single cheat meal will throw me off for like a week or two. So my baseline, I can't even tell after like a whole month, right? So sometimes you really have to Just dedicate yourself to understanding yourself. So as a creator, it can be really easy to neglect needs in order to meet deadlines or your own standards. It's easy to begin foregoing sleep and healthy meals. Um, but the act of beginning self-care may be daunting. Oh my God, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta. Not really. You can just start with simple self check-ins. So you can just start with that chart with me. You don't have to jump into, well, all these self-care routines on TikTok are so long and look so expensive and so many steps. You ain't gotta jump into that. So just like this is consistency. I'm working, I'm working, and I only have the weekends off. Saturday, Sundays off, and then Saturdays off. This is also consistency. Resting, and then the weekends when I really do my work. Resting, and the weekends really doing my work. This is also consistency. But then this is also consistency. So self care on a Monday, busting out some work. Self care maybe a day off. It could be a couple days off. As long as you try to hit like 1 day a week, that can add up. So as a small exercise, we may do something with these emotions. Uh, we're gonna play a little game with them. I'll just kind of help us get in tune. I feel like that's very fun as creatives. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching the introduction to emotional alchemy. Or not emotional alchemy. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm reading this up here. Thank you for watching the introduction to the Creatives Guide. We're going to get into exercise 1, lesson 1 next time, and that's playing with emotions. So I'll catch you guys later. Bye.